May 330 BC. Persepolis, Persia. Alexander the Great's army has just conquered the greatest empire on earth. Tonight, they're throwing a victory party in the most magnificent palace ever built. Wine is flowing. Music is playing. Soldiers are celebrating. Then a woman picks up a torch. Her name is Thais. She's drunk. She's angry. And she says 6 words that will change history forever. Let's burn it all down. By sunrise, 200 years of Persian glory will be ash. But today, with AI technology, we can see what Alexander destroyed. Using archaeological evidence, ancient descriptions, and modern reconstructions, we can walk through Persepolis on its last day and witness the greatest act of cultural vandalism in ancient history. This is Persepolis, May 330 BC, the last day before the fire. Let me show you what Persepolis actually was. Imagine walking up to a massive stone platform, the size of 6 football fields, raised 40 feet above the desert floor. That's your first view of Persepolis. You climb a grand staircase so wide that 10 horses can walk up side by side. The steps are shallow, designed so nobility doesn't have to lift their robes. At the top, you pass through the Gate of All Nations. 2 massive stone bulls, 20 feet tall, guard the entrance. Their eyes seem to follow you. Then you see it, the Apadana Palace, 72 columns, each 65 feet high, holding up a cedar wood roof imported from Lebanon. The columns are so tall, they look like they're holding up the sky itself. Each one is carved with elaborate designs. Lotus flowers, palm leaves, bulls, lions. The walls are covered in reliefs showing delegates from 23 different nations bringing tribute to the Persian king. Indians bringing gold, Babylonians bringing fabrics, Egyptians bringing ivory. Everyone who matters in the ancient world is represented here. The floors are polished stone that reflects like mirrors. The ceilings are painted in brilliant blues, reds, and golds. This isn't just a palace, this is a statement. We are the center of the world. Everyone comes to us, and it's all about to burn. To understand why Persepolis matters, you need to understand the Persian Empire. In 550 BC, a guy named Cyrus the Great conquered the known world. He built an empire stretching from Egypt to India, the largest empire humanity had ever seen. 44% of the world's population lived under Persian rule. Think about that. Nearly half of all humans on Earth answered to one king. The Persians weren't just conquerors, they were organizers. They built the first postal system, the first international highway, the Royal Road, 1,500 miles long. They invented the concept of human rights with the Cyrus cylinder. They let conquered peoples keep their religions, languages, cultures. When Cyrus conquered Babylon, he freed the Jews and let them go home. The Bible calls him the Lord's anointed one, the only non-Jewish person ever given that title. And Persepolis was their crown jewel. King Darius I started building it in 5118 BC. His son Xerxes finished it. For 200 years, it was where Persian kings celebrated Nowruz, the Persian New Year. Delegates from across the empire came here to renew their loyalty and bring gifts. It was the center of civilization until Alexander showed up. Alexander III of Macedon, we call him the Great, was 20 years old when he became king. By 26, he'd conquered the Persian Empire. Here's how, in 334 BC, he crosses into Asia with 40,000 men. The Persian king, Darius III, has an army of maybe 100,000. On paper, Persians should win. They don't. Alexander wins battle after battle. At Issus, he defeats Darius face to face. Darius runs, leaving his mother, wife, and children behind. Alexander treats them with respect. But the message is clear. The Persian king is a coward. At Gaugamela in 331 BC, Alexander destroys the Persian army completely. Darius runs again. This time, His own nobles kill him. The Persian Empire, 220 years old, collapses. Alexander marches through Persia, taking city after city. Babylon surrenders without a fight. Susa opens its gates. The Persian treasuries, holding centuries of accumulated wealth, fall into his hands. And then, in January 330 BC, he arrives at Persepolis. The city doesn't fight. It can't. The army is destroyed. The king is dead. The gates open. Alexander's soldiers pour in. They loot the treasuries, 120,000 talents of gold and silver. That's roughly $3 billion in today's money. It takes 20,000 mules and 5,000 camels to carry it away. But Alexander doesn't burn the city. Not yet. He stays there for 4 months. Winter turns to spring. The army rests. They've been campaigning for 4 years straight. They're exhausted. And then comes that night in May. Let me walk you through May, 330 BC in Persepolis. Morning. The palace is full of Macedonian soldiers. They've been living here for months, surrounded by unimaginable luxury. Marble floors, gold decorations, rooms filled with treasures. Some Greek scholars are with the army. They're cataloging the royal library, thousands of texts, history, science, poetry, religious texts, the accumulated knowledge of the Persian Empire. Alexander is in the throne room, probably sitting on Darius's throne. He's 26 years old. He's conquered the world. What's left to do? Afternoon, news arrives. Darius's murderers have been caught and executed. The Persian Empire officially has no king. Alexander is the uncontested ruler of Asia. Some of his officers suggest moving on. They're still fighting in the eastern provinces, but Alexander isn't ready to leave yet. Evening, a banquet is prepared. This isn't unusual. Alexander throws parties constantly. Wine from across the empire, food on golden plates, entertainment. The guests include Alexander's generals and friends, Greek intellectuals traveling with the army, courtesans and entertainers. Among them, a woman named Thyestes is Athenian. Her city, Athens, was burned by the Persians 150 years ago in 480 BC. Xerxes, the king who finished building Persepolis, personally ordered it destroyed. The wine flows. Hours pass, everyone gets drunk. And then, Thais stands up. According to the ancient historians Plutarch and Diodorus, this is what happened. Thais picks up a torch. She's drunk. She starts talking about how the Persians burned Athens, how Xerxes destroyed Greek temples, how Greeks have suffered under Persian invasions for generations. Now, she says, we should burn Persepolis. We should make them feel what we felt. Let the man who conquered Asia lead us in revenge. It's a wild idea, a drunk suggestion at a party. And Alexander says yes. He grabs a torch. His generals grab torches. They all stumble out of the banquet hall laughing, drunk, carrying fire. They start with the wooden roof of the Apadana palace, the cedar from Lebanon, dried by 200 years in the Persian sun, goes up like kindling. The fire spreads. The painted ceilings blister and peel. The gold decorations melt. The carved wooden doors burn. Room after room catches fire. The soldiers join in. Maybe they think it's part of the party. Maybe they're caught up in mob mentality. Maybe they want revenge for years of hard campaigning. The library burns. Thousands of texts gone. Persian history, science, literature lost forever. The treasuries burn. The throne room burns. The royal quarters burn. By morning, Persepolis is a smoking ruin. The columns, too massive to burn completely, stand like blackened teeth. The stone platform is scorched. Everything wooden is gone. Everything beautiful is destroyed. Alexander allegedly sobers up and regrets it. Some sources say he tried to stop the fire. Others say he planned it all along and used Thais as an excuse. We'll never know the truth. What we know is this: in one drunk night, Alexander destroyed what 200 years of Persian kings had built. Here's what makes the burning of Persepolis so tragic. We lost an entire library. The Persians kept records of everything: history, astronomy, medicine, poetry, religious texts, Zoroastrian sacred books, records from conquered territories, scientific observations going back centuries. Almost all of it burned that night. We lost irreplaceable art. The palace was filled with masterpieces, sculptures, paintings, textiles, gold and silver works. The artistic achievement of 200 years, gone. We lost a symbol. Persepolis wasn't just a palace, it was the heart of Persian identity. It was where kings were crowned, where Nowruz was celebrated, where the empire came together. After it burned, Persians never built anything like it again. Why did Alexander do it? Some historians say it was revenge, payback for the Persians burning Athens. Some say it was practical. He was moving his capital to Babylon anyway, and he didn't want Persepolis to become a rallying point for Persian resistance. Some say it was symbolic, destroying the old Persian capital to show he was the new king of Asia. And some say it really was just a drunk mistake that got out of hand. The truth? Probably a mix of all of them. But here's what's interesting. The fire didn't actually destroy everything. The stone platforms survived. Many of the columns survived. You can see them today. The reliefs on the staircases survived. They're still there, showing those 23 nations bringing tribute. Persepolis died, but it didn't completely disappear. Fast forward to 354 years. In 1979, the Islamic Revolution happens in Iran. The Shah is overthrown. Ayatollah Khomeini takes power. Iran becomes an Islamic republic. And you know what symbol the new government uses for the country? Not Islamic imagery. The Achaemenid Persian Empire, the winged symbol from Persepolis. Because even today, Iranians see themselves as heirs to that ancient glory. Modern Iran celebrates Nowruz, the same holiday celebrated at Persepolis. They teach their children about Cyrus the Great. They visit the ruins, and they call Alexander Eskandar Egoyastak, Alexander the Accursed, not Alexander the Great, the man who destroyed their heritage. Here's the lesson. You can conquer an empire. You can defeat its armies. You can kill its king. But when you burn its culture, when you destroy its art, its history, its identity, you create a wound that never heals. 2,300 years later, Iranians still mourn Persepolis. The Greeks got their revenge for Athens. But did they really win? Because while Athens was rebuilt and forgotten, Persepolis, even in ruins, became immortal. Sometimes destruction creates legends. May 330 BC. Dawn. Alexander walks through the smoking ruins of Persepolis. The greatest palace in the world is gone. 200 years of Persian glory reduced to ash and blackened stone. Did he regret it? We don't know. The sources disagree. What we know is this: he never built anything to replace it. He moved to Babylon and kept conquering until he ran out of world to conquer. 8 years later, at age 32, he died in Babylon. Possibly poisoned, possibly from fever, possibly from drinking too much. Just like he drank too much that night in Persepolis. The palace he burned still stands, or what's left of it. You can visit the ruins today. Stand where Persian kings stood. Climb those same stairs, touch those same stones. The fire couldn't destroy everything. What would you have done? If you were Alexander, drunk on wine and victory, would you have burned it, or would you have saved it? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this made you think about what we lose when we destroy history, whether in ancient Persia or modern wars, hit subscribe. This was Persepolis, May 330 BC, the last day before the fire. Some things once burned can never be rebuilt.